For over 50 years, the armies of Islam had been almost unstoppable. From the deserts of Arabia, they carved out an empire stretching from North Africa all the way to Persia. Now, their eyes turned to the greatest prize in the Eastern Mediterranean, Constantinople. By the 670s, Caliph Muawiyah was ready to finish the job. His commanders gathered a massive expedition, tens of thousands of soldiers on land, and a powerful fleet at sea. Byzantine writers later claimed hundreds of warships and up to 200,000 men. Those numbers are probably exaggerated, but the fear inside Constantinople was very real. Arab forces seized bases along the Anatolian coast. They turned the peninsula of Cyzicus into a forward operating base, wintering there and returning each campaigning season. Every year, the fleet came back to raid, to blockade, and to choke off the city's lifelines. Inside the walls, the last great Roman capital faced a nightmare: a tightening naval blockade, raids burning its countryside, an empire exhausted after decades of war with Persia and constant frontier pressure. If Constantinople fell, there was no second Rome waiting behind it. Nothing stood between the armies of the Caliphate and the heartlands of Christian Europe. But the Byzantines were about to reveal something new, a secret weapon so terrifying that Arab chroniclers would remember it for generations. They called it sea fire and Roman fire, a flame that seemed to burn on water and devour ships alive. We know it today as Greek fire. The Byzantines had their own names for it: sea fire, liquid fire, Roman fire. None of those names tell us how it was actually made, and that was the point. Greek fire wasn't just another weapon. It was a state secret, one of the most closely guarded technologies of the medieval world. No original recipe survives. Modern historians and chemists have tried to reconstruct it, but nobody can agree on a single formula. Most experts think petroleum was at the heart of it. Thick oil, probably refined, mixed with sticky resins so it clung to wood, cloth, and flesh. To that, they likely added sulfur, pitch, and other chemicals to change how it burned. Some theories even suggest quicklime or saltpeter to boost the flame. The exact ingredients are debated, but the effect is clear. When Greek fire hit you, it stuck. It burned incredibly hot. And, crucially, it could spread across the surface of the sea, still burning as it rode on the floating oil. To sailors who had only ever seen ordinary fire, it must have looked supernatural. And Greek fire was more than just the liquid itself. It was an entire weapon system. There was the formula, guarded by the emperor and a handful of specialists. There were the heavy bronze siphons mounted on the bows of Byzantine warships. There were pumps and pressure vessels to blast the liquid outward in a continuous stream. There were specialist crews trained to operate the equipment and survive using it. All of this was built into the Byzantine dromon, the empire's main warship. Its bow was redesigned to carry a fortified platform and the main siphon, protected by wooden screens. Behind that stood archers and marines ready to exploit the chaos once the fire hit. Sources also mention smaller handheld versions of the siphon and earthenward grenades filled with the mixture. These could be hurled by hand or launched by simple artillery, exploding and spraying burning liquid over decks and siege engines. Now imagine you're an Arab sailor facing this for the first time. You close in expecting arrows, javelins, maybe a boarding action. Instead, the enemy ship turns its bow toward you and spits fire. The flame doesn't die in the spray. It doesn't go out when you throw water on it. The sea itself seems to be burning. Later Arab writers describe terrifying fires, ships turned into floating furnaces, and waves that looked like they were on fire. For a generation, Greek fire became a symbol of Byzantine trickery, of imperial technology, and, in some eyes, of divine favor protecting Constantinople. The exact details of the battle outside Constantinople are blurry. Our sources are late, biased, and sometimes contradictory, but we can still sketch the broad outline. By the late 670s, the Arab fleets based at Cyzicus had turned the Sea of Marmara into their playground. Year after year, they threatened the city from the water. Emperor Constantine IV decided it was time to gamble everything on a decisive naval strike. The Byzantine fleet rowed out from the harbors of Constantinople. Their dromons were reinforced. Their bows carried the new siphons that would unleash Greek fire. Across the water, the Arab fleet moved to meet them. They had every reason to be confident. Years of experience, numbers on their side, and the momentum of decades of victory. The Arab ships formed a broad battle line, aiming to envelop the smaller Byzantine force. The Byzantines, instead of spreading out, concentrated their dromons into a tight wedge aimed right at the enemy center. This wouldn't be a traditional boarding action. This was a delivery system for fire. As the fleets closed, the Byzantines waited until they were at effective range, perhaps only a few dozen meters. Then the dromons pivoted their bows toward the densest mass of Arab ships. Crewmen worked the pumps. Pressure built in the tanks. At the emperor's order, the siphons roared to life. A jet of burning liquid shot forward and slammed into the front rank of the Arab line. Ships that had never seen anything like this were instantly engulfed. The petroleum-rich mixture spread out over the water, catching alight as it went, turning the surface into a barrier of flame. The ships behind didn't have time to react. They plowed straight into the burning zone. Hull planking, rope, and canvas caught fire in seconds. The normal responses to fire at sea, dousing with water, smothering with wet cloths, only made things worse. Men grabbing buckets of seawater watched in horror as the flames clung to whatever they touched. Panic spread faster than the fire itself. Crews hacked at burning rigging. Some tried to reverse oars and back away. Others rammed blindly into friendly ships, tangling them together in burning clusters. Meanwhile, the Byzantine wedge kept moving. They advanced behind their own wall of fire, staying just outside the worst of the chaos and launching fresh blasts whenever they saw an opening. Some Arab ships managed to break away and flee. Many did not. Clusters of vessels locked together, shrouded in smoke and flame, turned into enormous floating pyres. Byzantine chroniclers describe the Arab fleet shattered, its commander dead, and the survivors driven into headlong retreat. Arab sources remember heavy losses and a disastrous withdrawal. And even for those who escaped the immediate firestorm, the nightmare wasn't over yet. On the journey back towards Syria, the battered Arab fleet ran into a storm. Already damaged ships were wrecked on the rocks or swallowed by the sea. Thousands more men were lost, not to Greek fire, but to the waves themselves. In 678, after years of pressure, the first great Arab siege of Constantinople finally collapsed. The Umayyad leadership agreed to terms. Sources speak of a peace settlement, with the caliphate paying regular tribute in gold, horses, and slaves to the Byzantine emperor, a dramatic reversal of fortune after decades of Arab expansion. For the Byzantines, this victory was more than just one successful battle. It shattered the aura of Arab invincibility. It preserved the capital at a moment when the empire was dangerously fragile, and it bought Constantinople desperately needed time. In the years that followed, the empire reformed its armies, reorganized its provinces, and slowly recovered some of its strength. Without that breathing space, there's a real chance that Byzantine civilization would simply have disappeared in the 7th century. Some historians argue that this battle helped shape the religious and cultural map of Europe. If Constantinople had fallen in the age of Greek fire, the story of medieval Christianity and Islam and the future of Eastern and Central Europe might have looked very different. And at the very heart of that turning point stood a single terrifying innovation: Greek fire, unleashed from the bows of a few wooden warships. So why didn't everyone just copy Greek fire? They tried. Arab engineers experimented with their own incendiary mixtures. Bulgar, Rus, and later Crusader states all developed forms of fire weapons. Many of these formulas were effective in their own ways, but none seem to have reproduced the exact system the Byzantines used. The key was secrecy. Greek fire was controlled directly by the imperial government. Production was centralized. Specialist units were responsible for handling and deploying it, especially at sea. And leaking the recipe could mean severe punishment, possibly even death. Byzantine military manuals are careful and almost nervous when they discuss fire weapons. They warn commanders to pay attention to wind direction, to avoid using Greek fire near their own wooden fortifications, and to treat it with extreme caution. They knew that this was not just another tool, it was dangerous even to the people who wielded it. Greek fire first appears in the record in the late 7th century. References to liquid fire continue off and on for hundreds of years. It helped break Arab sieges. It appears again against Rus fleets attacking Constantinople in the 10th century. Later, Crusaders would also face versions of Byzantine fire weapons. But over time, Greek fire's decisive edge faded. New technologies emerged: gunpowder, cannon, more heavily built ships. Naval warfare changed. At some point, maybe through the loss of key workshops, the death of specialist families, or simple bureaucratic decay, the exact method of producing and deploying Greek fire was lost. Later medieval references to Greek fire are often just generic labels for any frightening fire weapon. The true Byzantine system slipped into legend. In the modern era, historians and chemists have tried to recreate it. Some experiments using petroleum, pine resin, and sulfur produce impressive jets of flame and sticky burning liquid. Others test quicklime or other chemicals to see if the mixture can ignite when it contacts water. They can get close to the descriptions, but they can't replicate everything: the range, the reliability, the exact behavior described in the medieval sources. And so Greek fire remains what it was to the enemies of Byzantium: a mystery, a nightmare, and a reminder that even in the early Middle Ages, states could run something very much like a classified weapons program and then bury the secret forever. In the summer of 678, the waters outside Constantinople turned into a furnace. Arab sailors saw their fleet vanish in flame and storm. Byzantine defenders saw a miracle. Modern historians see a single technological leap that may have saved an empire. Greek fire didn't just burn ships. It burned its way into the memory of every survivor who saw it. And even today, more than 1,000 years later, we still don't fully understand how it worked. If you want more stories of naval warfare and forgotten military technology, check out the other episodes on this channel, and the short that started this one, Greek Fire in 60 Seconds.